The rain came down hard on Cedar Falls that Tuesday night. Jake Morrison pulled his jacket tighter as he locked up his garage. The old building had been his father's and his grandfather's before that. 3 generations of Morrison men had fixed cars in this small Montana town. Jake was tired. He had spent the whole day working on Mrs. Henderson's old truck. The engine kept making strange noises, and he could not figure out why. At 32, Jake had fixed just about every car problem. But some days the machines just did not want to cooperate. Thunder rolled across the sky as Jake walked to his pickup truck. The storm was getting worse. He was about to get in when he saw something strange. A bright light flashed through the trees behind his garage. It was not lightning. The light was blue and steady, like a welding torch. Jake grabbed his flashlight. From the truck, maybe someone was in trouble. The woods behind his shop were thick with pine trees. Not many people went back there, especially not at night in a storm. He pushed through the wet branches. The light was coming from deeper in the woods. As he got closer, Jake could hear a low humming sound. It was not like any machine he knew. The sound was almost musical. Then he saw it. A metal shape sat in a small clearing. It was about the size of a car, but it did not look like any car Jake had ever seen. The surface was smooth and silver, like liquid metal. Strange symbols glowed. Along its sides, the blue light was coming from a crack in the hull. Jake's first thought was that it was some kind of military aircraft. Maybe it had crashed in the storm. He walked closer, his boots crunching on wet leaves. The humming sound got louder. That was when he saw the door was open. Someone was inside. They were not moving. Jake ran to the strange craft. He shined his flashlight through the door. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. The being inside was tall and thin. Its skin looked like it was made of crystal, catching the light and throwing it back in rainbow colors. It had 4 arms and a face that was almost human, but not quite. Its eyes were closed. And blue liquid was leaking from a cut on its forehead. The being was hurt. Jake had never seen anything like it. But he knew what to do when something was hurt. He had pulled people from car crashes before. It helped when the old mine collapsed and trapped 3 men. This was different, but the same rules applied. Help first, ask questions later. Jake climbed into the craft. Inside was full of strange lights and sounds. Everything looked like it was grown rather than built. The walls curved in impossible ways, and the floor felt warm under his feet. The being opened its eyes as Jake knelt beside it. The eyes were deep blue, like the ocean. When it spoke, the words came out in musical tones that Jake somehow understood. "You came," the being said. Its voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I did not think anyone would come." "You're hurt," Jake said. "Let me help you." The being tried to sit up. "My ship is damaged." "The storm? It made lightning that hurt." "My engines. I cannot fly home." Jake looked around the craft. He could see sparks coming from a panel near the back. Wires hung loose and something was smoking. The air smelled like burned metal and ozone. "I am Kethvel," the being said. "I am from far stars." "You are human?" "Yes." "Yeah, I'm human. I'm Jake. Can you walk?" Kethvel nodded and stood up slowly. He was nearly 7 feet tall. "I must fix my ship, but I do not know your planet's ways. Your lightning is different from ours." Jake had no idea what Kethvel meant, but he understood machines. And this ship was just another machine that needed fixing. He walked to the smoking panel and opened it with his hands. Inside, he found a mess of broken wires and burned circuits. But underneath the alien technology, Jake could see the same basic principles he knew from cars. Power had to flow from one place to another. When it could not flow, things stopped working. "Do you have tools?" Jake asked. "Wall where strange instruments hung?" Jake looked at them, but they made no sense to him. Instead, he went back to his truck and got his toolbox. For the next 3 hours, Jake worked on the alien ship, used wire strippers and electrical tape. He connected circuits with jumper cables from his truck. When the alien power source would not work with human tools, he rigged up a car battery to give it a boost. Kethvel watched in amazement. "How do you know what to do?" You have never seen our technology. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead. A machine is a machine. Power goes in. Work comes out. The parts might look different, but the idea is the same. He twisted 2 wires together and wrapped them with tape. The ship's lights flickered, then came on steady. The humming sound changed to a smooth purr. Try it now, Jake said. Keth fell. Touched a crystal panel. The ship lifted off the ground, floating 3 feet in the air. The alien's face showed what Jake thought was joy. You have done the impossible, Keth said. Our best engineers could not have fixed this with your primitive tools. Yet you did it in one night. Jake shrugged. Sometimes the simple way is the best way. Keth reached into a pouch on his belt and pulled out a small crystal. It was bigger than a golf ball, but it seemed to hold light inside it. He pressed it into Jake's hand. This is for you, Keth said. Keep it safe. One day it will prove that you are worthy. Worthy of what? Of the trust I am placing in you. Keth's voice became serious. Others will come looking for me. They are not like me. They are hunters, and they think all humans are animals. When they come, show them this crystal. Tell them that Kethvel of the Zephyrian Collective says you are under his protection. Jake did not understand what Kethvel meant, but he put the crystal in his pocket. Are you in some kind of trouble? My people are at war with an empire that wants to rule the galaxy? They hunt us across the stars. I was carrying important information when they shot down my ship. But thanks to you, I can complete my mission. The ship began to rise higher. Raindrops danced off an invisible barrier around the craft. Will I see you again? Jake called up. Perhaps Kethvel said. But remember what I told you. Keep the crystal safe and trust in your ability to fix what is broken. Your people have a gift that could change everything. The ship shot up into the stormy sky and vanished among the clouds. Jake stood in the clearing for a long time, looking up at the rain. The crystal in his pocket felt warm against his leg. Finally, he walked back to his truck. By the time he got home, he was starting to wonder if the whole thing had been a dream. But the crystal was still in his pocket. His tools still smelled like ozone and alien metal. Jake went to bed thinking about Kethvel's words. Others would come looking, but Jake was just a mechanic in a small town. What could he possibly do against alien hunters? He fell asleep with the crystal on his nightstand, glowing softly in the dark. Outside, the storm moved on, leaving the night quiet and still, but in the distance, 3 shapes moved through the clouds, heading toward Earth. Jake woke up to the sound of screaming. He rolled out of bed and looked out his window. People were running down Main Street, pointing at the sky. Cars had stopped in the middle of the road. Children were crying. Dogs were barking. 3 huge black shapes hung in the air above Cedar Falls. They were nothing like Kethvel's ship. These craft were dark and angular, like giant arrowheads made of metal. They cast shadows over the entire town. No sound came from them, which made them even more frightening. Jake grabbed his clothes and got dressed fast. The crystal on his nightstand was glowing bright red now. It had been soft blue when he went to sleep, put it in his pocket and ran. Outside, his neighbor, old Pete Wilson, was standing in his yard in his pajamas. Pete had fought in 3 wars and never looked scared of anything. Now his face was white as paper. What are those things, Jake? Pete asked. I don't know, Jake lied. He had a feeling he knew exactly what they were. A loud voice came from the sky. It spoke English, but with a strange accent that made every word sound cold and sharp. Citizens of this settlement, we are the Dominion hegemony. We seek the terrorist who has given aid in this area. Surrender him now, and no harm will come to you. People looked around at each other. No one knew what the voice was talking about, but Jake knew. They were looking for Kethvel. Sheriff Dan Brooks came running down the street with his gun drawn. He was a good man, but his pistol would not do much against alien ships. Behind him came Mayor Lisa Carter, still in her bathrobe. Everyone stay. Calm, Sheriff Brooks shouted. Stay inside your houses and lock your doors. But people were too scared to move. They stood in the street, staring up at the black ships. One of the ships began to lower toward the ground. It landed in the town square with a soft thud. A door opened in its side, and figures began to walk out. Jake had never seen anything like them. They wore black armor that covered them from head to toe. The armor had a blue glow around the edges like electricity. Their faces were hidden behind dark masks. They carried weapons that looked like rifles, but with crystals instead of barrels. The leader was taller than the others. When he spoke, his voice came from speakers in his armor. I'm Commander Vex9 of the Dominion Fleet. Last night, a Zephyrion terrorist landed in this area. His ship was repaired by someone in this town. We know this because our sensors detected the energy signature of the repair. Jake's heart started beating fast. The crystal in his pocket was getting hot. Sheriff Brooks stepped forward. I don't know what you're talking about. There's been no terrorist here. Commander Vex9 turned his masked head toward the sheriff. Do not lie to me, Primitive. We have ways of finding the truth. He pointed his weapon at Sheriff Brooks. A blue beam shot out and wrapped around the sheriff like rope made of light. Sheriff Brooks froze in place, unable to move. Dan, Mayor Carter screamed. The one who helped the terrorists will step forward now, Commander Vex9 said. Or we will begin taking your people one by one until someone talks. 2 more soldiers came out of the ship. They grabbed Mrs. Henderson, the old woman whose truck Jake had been fixing yesterday. She cried out as they dragged her toward their ship. Jake could not let innocent people get hurt because of what he had done. He stepped out from behind Pete's fence. Let her go, Jake said. I'm the one you want. All the armored figures turned toward him. Commander Vex9 walked closer. Even through his mask, Jake could feel him staring. He repaired the terrorist ship. I helped someone who was hurt. That's what people do. Commander Vex9 made a sound that might have been laughter. How noble. How stupid. Do you know what your terrorist friend has done? He stole information that could help rebels destroy Dominion worlds. Millions could die because of your kindness. Jake did not believe him. Kethvel had not seemed like a terrorist. But even if it was true, Jake could not change what he had done. Where is he now? Commander Vex9 demanded. Gone. He left last night after I fixed his ship. Where did he go? I don't know. He didn't tell me. Commander Vex9 grabbed Jake by the shirt and lifted him off the ground. The alien was incredibly strong. You will tell me everything you know about the terrorist. You will tell me how you repaired technology that should be impossible for your primitive species to understand. And you will tell me why our sensors detect Zephyrian energy coming from your body. The crystal in Jake's pocket was burning hot now. Jake could see red light coming through the fabric of his jeans. I don't know what you mean, Jake said. Commander Vex9 threw Jake to the ground. Search him. 2 soldiers grabbed Jake and held him while a third reached into his pocket. The soldier pulled out the crystal and held it up. It was glowing so bright it hurt to look at. A beacon crystal, Commander Vex9 said. The terrorists marked you, but why? Before Jake could answer, the crystal began to project light into the air. The light formed shapes and colors like a 3-dimensional movie. Then Kethvel's voice came from the crystal, speaking the same musical language Jake had somehow understood the night before. But this time, Commander Vex9 understood it too. When the message ended, Commander Vex9 was very still for a long moment. Impossible, he said finally. The terrorist claims you have been chosen for the proving. He says your species shows signs of the gift. What's the proving? Jake asked. An ancient law. When a new species is discovered, they can be tested to see if they deserve to remain free. But no primitive species has ever been granted the proving. It is a waste of time. Commander Vex9 looked around at all the people watching. However, the law is the law. The terrorist has formally requested that your species be tested. I cannot ignore this, even though you will certainly fail. He turned back to Jake. You'll come with us. Your world will choose a champion to face ours in single combat. When your champion loses, your planet will join the Dominion Empire as a slave world. And if we win, she gasped. Commander Vex9 made that laughing sound again. You will not win. But if you did, your world would be granted protection and alliance with the free worlds. You would become equals in the galaxy. Mayor Carter pushed. Through the crowd, you can't just take him. This is our town, our planet. Your planet belongs to whoever is strong enough to claim it, Commander Vex-9 said. That has always been the way of things. The only question is whether you will join us as slaves or be destroyed as rebels. Jake looked around at his neighbors. His friends, the people he had known all his life. They were all looking at him like he could somehow save them. But he was just a mechanic. What did he know about fighting aliens or saving the world? The crystal in the soldier's hand pulsed brighter. Jake remembered Kethvel's words about trusting in his ability to fix what was broken. Maybe this was what he had meant. I'll be your champion, Jake said. Commander Vex-9 tilted his head. You? A primitive mechanic against our greatest warrior? This will be over quickly, he gestured to his soldiers. Prepare the human for transport. We leave for the testing station immediately. As the soldiers moved toward Jake, the sky above them began to glow. More ships were coming through the clouds. But these were not black and angular like the Dominion vessels. These ships were silver and curved, beautiful like works of art. Kethvel had returned, and he was not alone. The silver ships landed in the fields around Cedar Falls. They moved with grace, like birds settling on water. Jake counted at least 20 of them, each one beautiful and strange. Commander Vex-9 raised his weapon toward the sky. Zephyrian. Ships. They have followed us here. The largest silver ship touched down in the town square, right next to the Black Dominion vessel. A door opened, and Kethvel stepped out. But he was not alone. Behind him came other beings like him, tall and crystalline, their skin catching the morning light. Commander Vex-9, Kethvel said. His musical voice carried across the square. You received my message. I received your foolish request, Vex-9 replied. But it changes nothing. This world will belong to the Dominion. That depends on the outcome of the proving. Jake watched the two aliens face each other. The people of Cedar Falls stood between. Them, caught in the middle of something they did not understand, Sheriff Brooks was still frozen by the blue energy beam. Mayor Carter looked ready to faint. Kethvel, Jake called out. What's really going on here? Kethvel turned to him. Jake Morrison. I am sorry to bring this trouble to your world.
Ow.
But your people need to know the truth about what is happening in the galaxy.
Ow.
He gestured, and lights appeared in the air above the town square. The lights formed pictures that moved like a movie. Jake saw stars and planets, great ships traveling between worlds. Long ago, Kethvel said, many species lived in peace among the stars. Traded with each other, shared knowledge, helped one another grow. It was a golden time. Pictures changed. Now they showed dark ships, like the ones above Cedar Falls. They showed worlds burning, people running in fear. Then came the Dominion hegemony. They believed that only the strongest should rule the galaxy. They conquered world after world, enslaving any species they found. They claimed it was for the good of all, that primitive races needed to be controlled. Commander Vex-9 stepped forward. We brought order to chaos. We ended the wars between species. Under Dominion rule, the galaxy is peaceful. Peaceful for you, Kethvel replied. What about the billions who died? What about the cultures you destroyed? What about the children who will never know freedom? The pictures in the air showed more scenes. Jake saw beings in chains, working in dark mines. He saw cities turned to ash, saw families torn apart. My people, the Zephyrians, were once part of a great alliance of free worlds, Kethvel continued. We fought against the Dominion for centuries. We were losing. They had more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. Because you were weak, Vex-9 said. The strong survive. The weak serve or die. This is the natural order. Kethvel ignored. We were about to surrender when our scientists made a discovery. There were other species in the galaxy, species that had not yet been found by either side. Species that might have abilities we had never seen before. The pictures changed again. Now they showed Earth from space, blue and beautiful. We found your world 5 years ago, Kethvel said. We watched you. We learned about humans. And we saw something amazing. What did you see? Jake asked. You fix things that should not be fixable. You solve problems that have no solutions. You take broken pieces and make them work together in ways that no one else would think of. You're scientists. Call it innovation. We call it the gift. Commander Vex9 made his laughing sound. Impossible. These primitives barely know how to make fire. Yet one of them repaired my ship using tools made of metal and wire, Kethvel replied. My ship uses quantum crystal technology that takes our engineers years to learn. Jake Morrison understood it in minutes. Jake felt uncomfortable with everyone looking at him. I just did what made sense. The ship needed power to flow from one place to another. I helped it flow. Exactly, Kethvel said. You saw past the complexity to the simple truth underneath. That is the gift. That is what could change everything. The pictures in the air showed a great battle in space, ships from many different worlds fighting together against the Black Dominion fleet. The old laws of the galaxy say that when a new species is discovered, they can be tested, Kethvel explained. If they pass the test, they are granted protection and the right to join the free worlds. If they fail, they become subjects of whoever found them. The proving, Jake said. Yes, single combat between champions. It is an ancient law from a time when the galaxy was young. The Dominion cannot ignore it, even though they want to. Commander Vex9 stepped closer to Jake. Law exists because it was created by the Dominion. We knew that no primitive species could ever defeat our champions. It is not a test. It is a demonstration of why we should rule. Many species have tried the proving over the centuries, Kethvel said sadly. All have failed. Their champions were brave, but they could not match Dominion training and technology. So, why are you doing this to us? Jake asked. Why give us false hope? Kethvel's crystal features seemed to glow brighter. Because you are different. In all our watching, in all our tests, we have never seen a species with your particular kind of intelligence. You do not just learn how to use tools. You remake the tools to work better. You take technology from one area and use it to solve problems in another area. You see connections that others miss. Pretty words, Commander Vex9 said. But words will not help your champion in the arena. War Master Krell has killed champions from 47 worlds. This human will be number 48. Jake felt sick. War Master Krell sounded like bad news. What kind of combat are we talking about here? Single combat with weapons and armor? Vex9 replied. The arena is neutral ground, watched by representatives from every major species. Both champions fight until one cannot continue. The winner's people get what they were promised. If I lose, Earth becomes a Dominion slave world. Yes. Jake looked around at his neighbors. Mrs. Henderson was crying. Pete Wilson looked like he wanted to fight the aliens with his bare hands. Sheriff Brooks was still frozen, but Jake could see the anger in his eyes. What if I refuse? Jake asked. Then we take your world by force, Vex9 said. At least this way, you have a chance. A very small chance, Kethvel admitted. But Jake, you must understand. This is not just about Earth. If you could win, if you could prove that there is another way to think about technology and war, would give hope to every enslaved world in the galaxy. It's no pressure, Jake muttered. Kethvel walked closer to him. I know it seems impossible, but I have seen what you can do. You repaired my ship in ways that our best engineers said could not work. You saw solutions that we had never considered. Fixing a ship is not the same as fighting a trained killer. No, Kethvel agreed. But both require you to see what others cannot see. Both require you to find new ways to solve old problems. Commander Vex9 raised his arm. Above them, the three black ships began to move. Enough talking. The arena awaits. Human, you will come with us now. The proving begins in one standard day. Jake looked up at the alien ships, then back at his town. Everyone was counting on him. Earth was counting on him. But he was just a mechanic from Montana. How could he possibly win against a warrior who had killed 47 champions? The crystal in his pocket grew warm again. Maybe that was his answer. He had to stop thinking like everyone expected him to think. He had to start thinking like himself. All right, Jake said. Let's go fix this problem. The arena was bigger than any building Jake had ever seen. It floated in space between the stars, a massive sphere made of metal and crystal. Ships from dozens of different worlds hung around it like steel flowers, each one carrying representatives who had come to watch the proving. Jake stood in a small room beneath the arena floor. Through a window, he could see the fighting space above. It was round, about the size of a football field, with walls that rose up on all sides. Thousands of seats filled the walls, and in those seats sat creatures Jake could never have imagined. Some looked like giant insects with too many eyes. Others were covered in fur, or scales, or feathers. A few looked almost human, but with blue skin, or extra arms or heads that were too large. All of them were watching the center of the arena, waiting for the fight to begin. "Nervous?" Kethville asked. Jake looked down at his hands. They were shaking, terrified. "Good, fear will keep you alive if you let it guide you instead of control." Jake was wearing the best armor the Zephyrians could provide. It was made of the same crystal material as their ships, but it felt as light as cloth. The helmet let him see in all directions at once, and the gloves helped him feel the shape and weight of anything he touched. His weapons were a different story. The Zephyrians had given him an energy rifle and a blade that could cut through almost anything, but Jake had never used weapons like these before. The practice sessions, he had been clumsy and slow. "I don't know how to fight," Jake said. "Then don't fight," Kethville replied. "Do what you do best. Solve problems." A loud voice echoed through the arena. "Citizens of the galaxy, today we witness the proving of the species called humans. Their champion will face War Master Krell of the Dominion Hegemony. Let the trial begin." A door opened in the arena floor. Jake walked up a ramp into the bright lights above. The noise from the crowd was incredible. Some aliens were cheering. Others were making sounds Jake had never heard before. A few were completely silent, just watching with large, unblinking eyes. On the other side of the arena, another door opened. War Master Krell stepped out. Jake's heart sank. Krell was huge. At least 8 feet tall and built like a tank. His armor was black and red, covered with spikes and sharp edges. His helmet looked like a skull with glowing red eyes. In his hands, he carried a weapon that was part sword, part axe, part gun. Krell had fought in this arena 47 times. He had never lost. "Human Krell," called out. His voice was deep and rough, like grinding stone. "I have killed champions from 47 worlds. You will be easy prey." Jake tried to think of something brave to say back, but his mind was blank. He just raised his rifle and tried to remember what Kethville had taught him. A bell rang. Fight began. Krell charged across the arena like a freight train. Jake fired his rifle, but the energy bolts bounced off Krell's armor without doing any damage. Jake dove to the side just as Krell's massive weapon smashed into the floor where he had been standing. The arena floor was made of metal plates. Krell's weapon left a crater 3 feet deep. Jake rolled and fired again. This time the energy bolt hit Krell in the chest, but again, it did no damage. Krell laughed and swung his weapon in a wide arc. Jake barely got his blade up in time to block it. The impact sent Jake flying across the arena. He hit the wall hard and slid to the floor. His armor had protected him from the worst of it, but he felt like he had been hit by a truck. Krell walked toward him slowly, like a cat playing with a mouse. Is this the best humanity can offer? Pathetic. Jake got to his feet. His rifle was broken, smashed when he hit the wall. All he had left was his blade and whatever was in his head. Krell raised his weapon for a killing blow. Jake looked up at it, and for the first time, he really looked at it.
No.
The weapon was huge and heavy, but it was also complicated. Jake could see power cables running from the handle to the blade. He could see cooling vents near the grip. He could see joints and connectors and circuits. It was not just a weapon. It was a machine, and all machines had weak points. Jake rolled away from Krell's attack and came up behind him. Instead of trying to hurt Krell, he looked at the warrior's armor. It was covered with weapons and gadgets, but it was also covered with the same kinds of things Jake saw in the weapon. Power cables, cooling systems, joints that had to bend and move. Krell spun around and swung at Jake again. This time, Jake was ready. He did not try to block the attack. Instead, he used his blade to cut one of the power cables running along Krell's arm. Sparks flew. Part of Krell's armor went dark. What? Krell looked down at his arm in surprise. Jake did not stop to explain. He dove between Krell's legs and cut another cable, this one running to the warrior's weapon. The weapon made a loud beeping sound and shut down. It's possible, Krell said. No one attacks the support systems. I'm not attacking, Jake said. I'm troubleshooting. Krell dropped his broken weapon and tried to grab Jake with his bare hands, but Jake was faster now. He could see the pattern of cables and vents and joints that kept Krell's armor working. He cut a cooling line near Krell's knee. He sliced through a data cable at the warrior's shoulder, found the main power junction on Krell's back and damaged it with the tip of his blade. Each cut made Krell slower and weaker. The warrior's armor was shutting down piece by piece. You fight like a coward, Krell said. Face me with honor. I'm not fighting you, Jake replied. I'm fixing you. It's fixing me. Your armor has a problem. It's too complicated. Too many things that can break. Too many ways for it to fail. Jake cut the last power cable he could reach. Krell's armor went completely dark. The warrior stood there for a moment, then fell to his knees. Without power, the armor was too heavy to move. I don't understand, Krell said. You never attacked me. You never tried to hurt me. I didn't need to hurt you, Jake said. I just needed to turn off your armor. The crowd was going crazy. Some aliens were cheering. Others were shouting in anger. A few were completely silent, staring at Jake like they had seen a magic trick. The loud voice echoed through the arena again. The human champion is victorious. By the ancient laws, the species known as humans is granted protection and the right to join the free worlds. Jake looked up at the thousands of watching aliens. Many of them were staring at him with new respect. He had not won by being stronger or faster or more violent than Krell. He had won by thinking differently. Commander Vexnine's voice came over the arena speakers. This proves nothing. The human got lucky. No, said another voice. Jake looked up and saw a being that looked like a giant tree with eyes. The human showed us something new. He won without hatred. He won without trying to destroy his enemy. He won by understanding. More voices joined in from the crowd. Representatives from dozens of worlds were talking about what they had seen. Some were excited, others were confused. But all of them were interested. Jake walked to the center of the arena. He was exhausted, but he felt good. He had solved the problem, just like Kethvel had told him to do. People of the galaxy, Jake said. His voice carried to every seat in the arena. I'm just a mechanic from a small town on Earth. I don't know about war or politics or ruling empires. But I know that most problems have simple solutions if you look at them the right way. He gestured toward Krell, who was still trapped in his powerless armor. This warrior was not evil. He was just wearing a machine that was too complicated for its own good. Sometimes the best way to win is not to fight at all. Sometimes the best way to win is to help. The arena erupted in noise as representatives from every world began talking. At once, Jake had won more than just the proving. He had given them something new to think about. 6 months later, Jake stood in what used to be Miller's cornfield on the edge of Cedar Falls. Now it was the busiest spaceport in the solar system. Ships from dozens of worlds landed and took off every day. Some brought scientists who wanted to study human engineering methods. Others carried diplomats working on trade agreements. A few brought refugees from Dominion worlds who had heard about Earth's victory and wanted to see the planet that had changed everything. Jake watched up. Beautiful silver ship touched down near the main landing platform. It was Kethvel returning from another mission to the Outer Rim worlds. These days, Kethvel spent most of his time convincing other species to join the growing alliance against the Dominion. Jake. Dr. Amy Ross came running across the landing field. She was out of breath and excited. Amy had been a mechanical engineer at the State University before first contact. Now she was Earth's leading expert on alien technology integration. What is it, Amy? The new fusion drive design works. We combined human combustion principles with Zephyrian crystal matrices, and the efficiency is incredible. We're getting 40% better fuel economy than the standard Dominion engines. Jake smiled. This was happening all over Earth now. Human engineers were working with alien scientists to create new technologies that neither species could have developed. Alone, the combination of human innovation and alien knowledge was producing amazing results. Commander Vex 9 is here to see the test, Amy added. Jake looked surprised. Vex 9. I thought he went back to Dominion space after the proving he did. But he came back last week with 50 Dominion ships. They want to defect to the Alliance. This was the biggest surprise of all. In the month since Jake's victory, dozens of Dominion commanders had switched sides. They brought their ships, their crews, and their knowledge of Dominion military secrets. Many of them said the same thing. They were tired of a system that only rewarded strength and cruelty. Jake walked toward the main building of the new facility. It was part garage, part laboratory, part meeting hall. The design was pure human, practical thinking mixed with alien materials and construction techniques. The walls were made of Zephyrian crystal that could change color based on the mood of the people inside. Right now, they were glowing a soft blue that meant contentment and productivity. Inside, he found Commander Vex 9, talking with Mayor Lisa. Carter, the Dominion officer, had removed his black armor and was wearing simple gray clothes. Without the mask, Jake could see that Vex 9 looked almost human, except for the silver skin and the fact that his eyes were completely black. Jake Morrison, Vex 9 said, when he saw him, "Owe you an apology." For what? For not understanding what you were trying to show us in the arena? I thought victory could only come through superior force. I was wrong. Jake sat down at the table with them. What changed your mind? Vex 9 was quiet for a moment. After the proving, I returned to my fleet. But I could not stop thinking about what you had done. You defeated our greatest warrior without hurting him. You won by helping your enemy see his own weakness. This was not possible according to everything I had been taught. So you started asking questions? Yes. And I learned things that disturbed me greatly. The Dominion teaches that we bring order and peace to the galaxy. But I discovered that we have destroyed over 300 civilizations in the past 1,000 years. Billions of intelligent beings wiped out because they would not submit to our rule. Mayor Carter leaned forward. What made you decide to switch sides? I met a human engineer on my ship, Vex 9 said. One of the prisoners we had taken from a cargo vessel. She was scheduled to be sent to a labor camp. But first, our chief engineer asked her to look at a problem we were having with our main computers. Jake could guess what happened next. It fixed it. In 2 hours, she solved a problem that our best technicians had been working on for months. And when she was done, she asked if she could show our engineering staff a better way to maintain the systems. Wanted to help the very people who had captured her. Vex 9 shook his head. That night, I realized that everything the Dominion had taught me was false. Strength is not about conquering others. True strength is about lifting others up. Your species understands this naturally. Dr. Amy Ross came into the building with a tablet in her hands. Jake, the test results are even better than we thought. The new engine design could cut travel time between star systems by 60%. Every ship in the Alliance is going to want this upgrade. That's great news, Jake said. How are the other projects going? Medical exchange program is working perfectly. Human doctors are learning alien healing techniques, and alien medics are studying human surgical methods. The agricultural team has developed crops that can grow on 17 different types of alien worlds. And the communication project has created a universal translator that works for over 200 species. Jake felt proud, but also overwhelmed. Earth had gone from an unknown planet to the center of a galactic alliance in just 6 months. Sometimes, he missed the simple days when his biggest problem was Mrs. Henderson's truck. Kethfell entered the building, his crystal features glowing with happiness. My friends, I bring excellent news from the Outer Rim. The Tarkanian Republic has agreed to join our alliance. That makes 47 species now standing together against the Dominion. 47 worlds, Mayor Carter said with amazement. All because a mechanic from Montana fixed an alien spaceship. No, Kethfell corrected gently. All because that mechanic showed the galaxy a different way to think about problems. Jake, your victory in the arena was just the beginning. The real victory is happening here every day as our species learn to work together. Jake looked around. the room at his friend's. A year ago, he had been alone in his garage, frustrated with a truck engine that would not behave. Now he was surrounded by beings from across the galaxy, all working together to build something better. There's still a lot of work to do, Jake said. The Dominion still controls most of the galaxy. There are still worlds under their rule, still people suffering in their labor camps, Svexnine agreed. But for the first time in 1,000 years, there is real hope. The Dominion's power was based on the belief that might makes right. You have shown the galaxy that there is another way. Every day, more Dominion officers question their orders. Every day, more worlds consider rebellion. And every day we get stronger, Amy added. It's not just militarily, but in ways the Dominion doesn't understand. Our alliance is built on cooperation, not fear. Our technology improves because we share knowledge instead of hoarding it. Our people fight harder because they're protecting something they believe in, not just following orders. Sheriff Don Brooks came into the building. He was wearing a new uniform that combined Earth's police symbols with Alliance rank insignia. As Earth's new security chief, he was responsible for protecting the growing diplomatic community in Cedar Falls. Jake, we've got another group of refugees coming in, he said. 40 families from a mining world in the Rigel system. They heard about our victory and traveled here in cargo ships. Where are we going to put them all? Mayor Carter asked. Have an idea, Jake said. What if we don't just house them here? What if we help them build new settlements on other Alliance worlds? It's places where they can use their skills and knowledge to help the cause. Kethfel's features brightened. Brilliant. Instead of creating refugee camps, we create new communities. Each one becomes a center for cooperation between species. This was how Jake thought about everything now. Not just how to fix problems, but how to make things better than they were before. It was the same approach he had always used in his garage. But now he was applying it to an entire galaxy. The crystal walls around them began to glow brighter, shifting from blue to gold. It was the color of hope and new beginnings. Outside, ships from dozens of worlds continued to arrive and depart. Each one carried people, ideas, and dreams of a better future. And at the center of it all was a small town in Montana, where a mechanic had once decided to help a stranger in need. Jake Morrison had learned that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could change everything. He had fixed more than just a spaceship that night in the woods. He'd helped fix the galaxy itself.